You should see like controls.
Yeah, it just, I lost my screen except for a tiny piece.
Let's see.
Mhm.
Did you see it last time?
Yeah, I'm trying to unshare this screen. See how it went little?
Do you mind if I
You go right ahead.
see here?
I tried the
Sometimes
grid.
those controls, Timji, goes on like another screen. You have to like find them.
Oh. Is it that one? No, that's launch.
No. Oh, there it is. It's
Thank you. Unshare.
Stop
Stop
share.
share. Okay, so I'm going to do that one more time so it's flawless in the future.
Yep.
Share screen, share.
and then it's sharing that screen over there.
This one.
Yep.
Yep. Stop share. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you. And then did you show him how to not mute when it's his turn to talk? Look at that new face on our screen.
Hi, Bruce.
I can hear him because he's behind me.
I could hear him a little bit too.
And do that again. What?
Can you guys hear all right?
Can you hear me? I can hear my.
Absolutely. We can hear you.
All right.
My camera's not on either. I better start my video.
Do you want me to close the doors?
Robbie says we're live, Dr. Lucero.
Okay, thank you. Welcome everyone to our June 9th regular governing board meeting of KUSD number 20. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. We're going to use Dr. Dorner's flag in the background there. So if everyone could please rise for the pledge. And Dr. Dorner, if you could lead us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Wow, we're getting way better at that. That was in unison. So thank you, everyone. We do have all 5 board members present. Hi, Mr. Ricca. How are you? Uh-oh, can you hear Bruce?
I think he's muted.
Oh, he's muted. Okay.
No, I'm not.
There you go.
I'm okay now, right?
You're
Right.
perfect. You're
All
perfect.
right. Thanks for asking, Dr. Lucero.
Let's start with our reports from Dr. Dorner.
Dr. Lucero, members of the board, I'm going to just make a quick introduction of our new facilities manager. He's moved on my, there he is. He's moved on my screen. Devin Catron's in his 2nd week. We're thrilled to have him leading our facilities department. He comes to us from Southern California with a degree in mechanical engineering. He's very systems oriented and looking at our structures, and already has big plans. Has met with, I think, all but 2 of the principals, and you may have even met the last 2 today. But we're super excited to welcome him to Kingman Unified School District.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us this evening.
The second piece, I thought I would go ahead and say now during my report before I hand it over to Angela for some facts on our hiring process, that I would like to see the board meeting live in July, if at all possible. We'll put precautions and spacing into place, and if someone can't make it, we'd obviously love to stream you in, but we would like to recognize our retirees at that meeting, so that we have a couple of long-term employees that have retired, and we'd like to invite them and recognize them like we do annually. But that in-person piece for those folks would be a little better. But I'll let you guys make that decision. That's just my recommendation. And then since we're in the hiring season, I thought Angela could give us an update on where we are as far as open positions and hires.
Absolutely. Good evening, Mr. President and members of the board. So I'm happy to say that we will be welcoming, at this point in time, 40 new teachers to the district. And of those, one of the things that I wanted to discover is how many of those new hires would be relocating to Kingman from either out of town or out of state. And so 31 of our 40 that we have hired so far are coming to us from out of the area. And so I thought that might be relevant to your considerations as far as, the timing of when school will begin and such.
Thank you.
How many open positions are left at this point?
Oh, thank you. I forgot to include that. We have 14 teaching positions open at this time.
So all of our principals are continuing to search and market and interview and fill those last few positions.
Yes.
So thank you. The rest of my part of the board report, I think, will come out during item 16 when we discuss calendars and the opening of school. So that concludes my piece of this agenda item.
Thanks, Dr. Dorner. Any questions for Angela or Gretchen? No questions. How about any board members have a report this evening? No reports. Okay, let's move on to item 6, which is approval of the 2021 district representatives who will participate in special education individual education plans. This is Mrs. Trujillo, or who's doing this one?
Dr. Lucero,
Yes,
did I miss something on the consent agenda?
you did. We all missed it because I skipped
Okay.
right over it. Sorry.
Okay. I thought maybe we had tabled it. Sorry.
I was just checking there. Okay, let's do the consent agenda, which is item 5. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Ms. Shumway,
I'll second it.
second by Ms. Weiser. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Now let's do item 6. And who is presenting that?
Ms. Dorner, you're muted.
Thank you. So this is our annual approval of representatives who will participate in special education, individual education plans. So the names on this list would be the LEAs during any IEPs or METs or other special education meetings.
Thank you. Any questions or a motion?
Make a motion that we approve. I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Weiser, second by Ms. Shumway. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 7, approved qualified evaluators for the 2021 school year.
And Mr. President, members of the board, this list includes all of those administrators who will conduct evaluations on staff throughout the coming year. We may have a few additional names to add as some of our newer administrators complete qualified evaluator training. But for now, these are the only folks, once you approve this, who can evaluate staff, certified staff.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to approve. I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 9, approve proposed, item 8. Second reading of change in policies, JKE expulsion of students.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is the reading that we've gone through a few times, and I'll just remind you that basically we've added the term at the governing board discretion when you're looking at readmittance hearings to the rest of the policy that already exists.
Any questions on item 8 or a motion?
I'll make that motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 9, approve proposal fiscal year 21 M&O and district additional assistance expenditure budgets.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is our proposed budget for the FY21 school year. It has all of the things that we've talked about in our workshops, but we have had to make some revisions, especially recently. So I'm going to go through the highlights of the budget. I know that those have been put before you in your packets, but it gives us some discussion points here and also lets the public know. So one, the M&O operational budget is set at $49 million. That's as it was projected in January. 2, our capital budget is set to $4 million. That's close to projected, and that does not include our cash reserves. The new funding formulas and the restoration of capital came to just over $1 million in additional funding for our district. Raises were big. Our increases over the last 3 years top out at an average of roughly 23% for all of our teachers. That's an average raise per teacher. The district also carved out an additional $700,000 in COVID-related spending by trimming department budgets primarily at the maintenance, transportation, and IT level. All cuts were based on spending in previous years. So I took a real hard look at spending as a way to free up some funds for what we need to do for COVID. The $700,000 is in addition to the $1.6 million that we expect from our CARES funding. So that brings that to 2.3 for COVID-related expenses that we can make in this coming year. Our cash reserves, which have sat at $6 million for at least the last 5 years, have been reduced to roughly $4.5 million. And the traditional $1 million in budgeted carryover that's been a part of our budget for that same time has been reduced to $600,000 at the time. This is just proposed, and as we get the train on the tracks, as you guys know, those numbers are subject to change mid-year, and I hope to build all of those back up, the reserves as well as the carryover this year and into the future. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Sherman? No questions. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Who was the second? Was that
That's I was.
Carol?
Carol.
Carol.
We have a motion by Ms. Weiser, second by Ms. Young. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thanks, Mr. Sherman. Item 10, approve one-year contract renewal with the Compass Group's food service provider Chartwells from July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 21. This is year 2 of a 5-year agreement of KUSD Award 19-07-04.
Mr. President, members of the board, this again is our food service renewal. As you know, 2 months ago, I brought forth the idea of going with the community eligible provision within our food service department, which would reduce revenue, but increase our ability to feed more students without charging them, as well as get rid of some of that bad debt and find a way around that. And so that's the only change with the renewal. As far as Chartwells itself, it's been quite a boon for our district during our traditional part of the year, and kind of a buoy during the pandemic. We count on the director for multiple things. He responds promptly and thoughtfully. He's in on all of our problem-solving discussions, and we can count on them as a partner more than just a contract. So if you have any questions, we'll take them.
I think maybe we could have them attend one of our board meetings just to kind of give us a summary of how their first year went with us, if they have any recommendations, how we can support them better, or see if any board members have questions for them.
Okay. Do you want me to set that up for next month, especially if we go live?
If everyone's okay with that, I think it would be good.
A great idea.
Sure, he heard.
Star's writing it down as we speak as well.
Okay.
So
He
she'll get
watches
there.
the stream, so he picked that up as well. So I'm sure I'll talk to him tomorrow. Yeah. Thank you, Keith.
So any questions for Mr. Sherman or a motion?
Make the motion. I'll second it.
So I have a motion and a second for item 10. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 11, approve district's recommendation to award Energy Performance Management RFQ 2020-002.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is a project that's 2 years in the making and puts us on the doorstep of an actual energy management project proposal. Really quickly, what that is we get an investment grade audit of our entire district. They look for ways that new equipment will bring us savings. Those savings become promised under Arizona revised statutes. And then with that promise, we're able to turn that into financing to actually buy the equipment. So all this does is open the door for that part of it. It does not put us in a contract with anything. With that said, we recommend that the award of RFQ 2020-002 goes to Mid-State Energy. We invited 3 companies to interview with us in this RFQ to put forth proposals. It was competitive, but at the same point, Mid-State won out in each section of it. I can take more questions and anything you need on this one. So, really quick. Also, we hired a third-party engineer company to serve as one of our evaluators because there was a mechanical proposal portion of this, and we did that because we didn't have a manager or a director in place. So you didn't go in with Aaron deciding whether or not this was a legit HVAC proposal. We got some people who actually knew what they were looking at.
Good to know. Thanks. Okay, so we have item 11 on the table. Do we have a motion or any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Just to confirm what we were talking about, this is not only for our utilities, the energy utilities, but also then to hopefully create funds for replacement of HVAC systems.
That's kind of how the whole thing works, is they assess savings that would come by upgrading and replacing existing equipment. And so then they push where they can get those savings into what is known as, this is what you can afford as a district as a loan payment. And then that loan payment is directly tied to all of those upgrades. So what I know about this so far is that lighting and plumbing fixtures, those drive the savings that you use to get HVAC, but it's all in one package, Beth. It's not, hopefully we'll buy HVAC down the road. No, the proposal would come with, we're going to get this much HVAC, this, all of it would be included in what we're trying to do. So essentially trying to get the savings to drive you as far as you can in this one for a loan. Okay.
And this is just to give us the numerical picture of it.
This will give us the actual audit that says, this is what we want to do in your district. This is what it'll save you. And this is the loan you could get via that road.
Right.
We're a year away from that information.
No, I think the investment grade audit would launch relatively quickly. I haven't talked to either of the companies in quite a while because of the RFQ process. But now that we are, if we give an award, then I would launch those discussions. And I imagine that can happen sooner than later. I think they would even be interested, depending on the type of proposal they're able to come with, that we could even see construction by the end of the year, start seeing that part of it.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion, Ms. Weiser, second, Ms. Chumway. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 12, approved to increase the rate of pay for certified and classified supplemental positions and professional development.
Mr. President, members of the board, I think the time has come to look at our supplemental pay rates, especially in lieu of all of our raises. They are way out of whack with what we're paying our teachers currently. And we need a lot of supplemental work, especially during traditional school. And so we propose raising the rates of both the classified and the certified. So the current rates, $12.50 per hour for classified staff providing off-contract instructional and enrichment support, $25 an hour for certified, providing the same type of activities but not support actual instruction, $75 per day classified attending PD, a full day minimum of 6 hours, and $150 for certified. So we would want to go to $16 for the classified per hour, $32 for the certified per hour, $100 per day for the PD on a classified, and $200 per day on the certified are the numbers I bring before you.
What part of the budget does this come out of?
It can come out of multiple sources. As you know, stipends touch every part. They touch our grants, they touch our M&O, they touch any fund we have, probably's got a stipend attached to it in some way. So those, it's across all funds, but the majority is you're going to find in your grants, your Title I's, your SPEDs, and your 21st century programs.
Do you think saying the word stipends is misleading though? Because it's really an hour. I mean, hours have to be worked to earn the money, correct? Not like a stipend when you coach a team or sponsor a club or something.
Yes, I hear you. I call them all stipends, but it's a supplemental pay rate. It's a pay rate we would give for that supplemental work that's different than their traditional pay. But yeah,
Supplemental hourly.
Supplemental hourly. Yep. And it is, in the accounting world for us, it's a stipend. It's just whether or not we track it as a lump sum or as a spread out sum. So forgive me for that.
Oh, that's okay. I just remember one of the things you're working on were presenting all the stipends at some point, like really evaluating them throughout the district.
Right. And you've seen all the ones we offer. And unfortunately, we haven't really been able to dig in on the entire framework and say this goes and that goes. But right. These are core. What we offer in these areas, these are core supplemental pay rates that would never you wouldn't see me bring that to the board that we get rid of these. This is how we conduct supplemental work with our students, is through these rates of pay.
Okay.
Mr. Sherman, when you did bring that list to the board earlier this year, Dr. Lucero, this is included on that as well, because we want it to be consistent. And so anyone who pays anyone ever an hourly rate has to comply with this. And it's under tutoring for grants. Didn't it, Aaron, present in a variety of different places on that sheet?
Absolutely. I try to get back to this rate at all times because it's just cut and dried. Makes it easier for people to get paid. Of course, it's different in the lump sum world, right? When we get into lump sum, it changes a bit. But with this, I know what to offer, and our grant people do as well. And you guys have approved the 25 and the 1250, right? Everything that we're doing now is all approved by you. And this is just changing this specific one.
Okay, thank you.
And it was requested in meet and confer.
Any other questions or a motion for item 12?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 13, approve recommendation to renew district RFP 16-17-2017 for district security guard services to Desert Mountain Security, year 4 of a 5-year renewal.
Mr. President, members of the board, that's exactly, there's nothing more to say really. We spent roughly $235,000 and we expect to spend the same. And we're going into like I said, year 4 of 5 is what we're looking for approval on.
How does this work with when we don't have traditional school? Are we still paying them a lump sum, or
no? They're hourly. Yeah. We utilize them because we had staff in schools. We still utilize them during COVID. If we had another extended closure, we'd have to reconsider what that looks like. I think everything that we did at the end of this current year, has to end up getting reevaluated in another situation.
And if I can add, Beth, it was actually a real benefit to have the security guards even during the closures, because we did have a lot of people coming on campus, and they were, if for lack of a better term, the welcome committee / security guards, because they greeted everyone, helped them safely find their way to where they needed to go, kept people from wandering around campuses, kept it secure, and were very informational. So they were very useful during closures.
Any other questions, or do we have a motion for item 13?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Weiser, second by Mr. Ricca. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 14, approve annual sole source declaration to First Due Fire Protection Services, LLC for fire alarm and related services.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is the annual continuance of using First Due to service our extinguishers and our alarm systems, as well as provide help with fire doors and things like that. And as far as we understand it, they're the only ones that do it here. It's fire extinguisher servicing, alarm and detector services, and hood inspections. A lot of these items, are showing up because we used to didn't think we had to bring them to you. They got approved one time and then you wouldn't see them again. And then we found out, no, it's every year you got to bring each of these things. So this has been approved for many years.
Any questions for Mr. Sherman or a motion?
I'll make a
I'll make a motion that we approve.
Motion by Mr. Ricca, second by?
I'll second.
Young. Any discussion? Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 15, approves annual sole source declaration to CART, Kingman Area Regional Transit, for student transportation to pass MPAL or PAC?
Yeah, BAC. Mr. President, members of the board, this is the annual continuance of CART as our sole public transportation provider of bus passes for the very thing you said, but for the positive alternative campus. We spend about $20K with them every year.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Shumway,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Weiser. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item
Thank you.
16, approval of school's calendar start date. Dr. Dorner. I think you're on mute.
Mr. President, members of the board, we have a very important decision to make this evening. Our community is asking for us to select the start date. I think we would all agree that we really do need to determine when we're going to put kids back in our schools. Governor Ducey, announced last week that schools are to reopen. What it looks like is up to the districts and the school board. We did have our board workshop and reviewed some of the options that we offered to you based on parent surveys, staff surveys, a collaboration team, and our administration team meetings. I'm going to share my screen for a moment just to remind you what those options looked like during the board workshop. Our traditional start date would be July 22nd. That's the current board approved calendar for the 2021 school year. We also reviewed a possible August 3rd, August 17th, or September 1st start date. I think it's really important to remind community members on the board that even if we do start on July 22nd, it will have been 78 school days, not calendar days, school days, since our kiddos had any direct instruction. We had a lot of interaction instruction during closure, but since they've been in their seats for new learning. If we wait till the 3rd, it will be 84 days since their last day in school, live school, 92 if we start the 17th, and an entire 103 if we wait till the 1st. The traditional calendar that's been approved, the 22nd, keeps payroll the same, holidays and breaks intact in the fall and the spring. We will offer a traditional live class where students would go to their classrooms with their teachers, but also an online choice. I would recommend, if we go this route, that we have a board workshop so we can give you all of the details of this plan. If you do go with August 3rd, August 17th, or September 1st, we are still recommending a traditional online with choice. That would be the slide that we looked at, where kids would either come to school and have live seat time, or if kids qualify, their family is vulnerable or at risk for COVID purposes, they could choose an online, either at home online or to KUSD online. But the main decision that has to be made this evening is, do we start on July 22nd? The details, our task force is working out rapidly, and we could be ready as early as a week from now or the beginning of the following week to give you all of the details on the instructional delivery process and the safety process. As Mr. Sherman stated, the state has released the funds. 1.6 million has been allocated for Kingman Unified. Mr. Sherman has carved out another, was it 700 you said, Aaron, from our M&O. We're putting all of that into the budget for safety, instruction, and delivery purposes. And we will be ready to go should you decide to allow us to open on July 22nd. And that is our official recommendation as a team. I met with the principals this morning. All of the principals feel that the 22nd is the best option. Need to get the education back in place for the kids. We feel like our schools are going to be the safest place in town, honestly. Kingman is alive and hopping and moving. And in the school system, we're going to be adding custodians, having disinfecting routines, screenings. We'll be very diligent in making sure that the environments are as safe as possible, and continue learning. So, unless you need to see this, do you want me to leave it up or? you can ask me questions, or Mr. Lucero. Mr. President, I'll hand it back to you for board discussion.
You're muted, Charlie.
Thanks, Beth. I'll start with a question, if that's okay. Can you remind us the little star on the bottom, all options outside July 22nd will require ADE approval of
Oh, yes. Thank you. That has been resolved. We don't necessarily need ADE approval for flexible seat time. At this point, we've been working with other districts in the state, looking at how to keep our budget intact and allow an online option. So as long as the students are enrolled with KUSD and they're on our campus at least once within a 10-day period, they remain on our budget and on our enrollment for financial purposes. So that's the good news. So part of our online plan that we would share with you, kiddos who could not come to the school and be with us live, we will have an assessment or an online central location where they could come once every 8 days, because we, instead of 10, we would do 8 since we're 2 4-day. It would be within a 2 week period. And then we would maintain them on our rolls and our budgeting. So that star at the bottom of that slide's been resolved.
Okay, I want to clarify. So of the 8 days in a 2-week period, they are to come an entire day?
No, they would come for a part of a day. It would be either a morning or an afternoon.
And the point of that is to what?
Well, multiple things. One, we need to check in with them, see how they're doing, have an interaction with their online teacher, and keep them on our roll, in our synergy as an enrolled student.
Okay, I'm just trying to wrap my head around what that would look like. So it's the online teacher, and they're going to have all of their online students come the same day?
No, not necessarily. It'd be once over the 2 weeks. They wouldn't all come on the same day. We would take a look at who is enrolled, and then we would calendar or have appointments for who comes when.
Okay, so all those students would be spread out between 8 days. So
absolutely.
That teacher is going to have online instruction and some students every day.
Yes, and the online, and I'll go into as many details as you want. I can ask for as many questions as you want, or we can do it in a workshop, either way. But what we're looking at right now, there's a short-term and a long-term plan, because we heard the board say when we talked last time, if we're going to offer online or distance learning, it needs to be high quality. We need to have new learning, and we can't just throw a program together. So in the short term, when we reopen school this summer, we're going to use Edmentum, or it's a Plato. It's actually, Mrs. Woolsey, give me the name of the K5. I always say it wrong. Calvert. Yeah, the Calvert suite for the K5s. And then as the students get older, we'll use the Plato. So there'll be the teacher of record with a curriculum that's already established and in place. And then behind the scenes, we're going to be building our own platform and training our teachers. So when if we have future closures, we'll be more self-contained. So I hope that makes sense. In the short term, we're going to hire teachers to handle the online, and those teachers will also meet Zoom and in person on a regular basis to make sure the kids are being successful. And they'll use the Plato or the Calvert curriculum while they're doing that.
Okay, I heard you just say Zoom or in person.
Yeah, there's going to be multiple components to it. Is that Ms. Shumway? Because I'm looking at my screen instead of you.
Yes.
We want to make sure that kids are successful. We know that if we just put them out there online on their own, with their own pacing, that's one of the things we talked about in the workshop, that a concern would be they wouldn't have forward movement, there would not be as much interaction with the teacher, and we could start losing them. So right now we're building the job description for the online teacher and the expectation for interaction. And the expectation is to have Zoom meetings where you can get the whole class together. You could build that relationship, see all the faces on a regular basis. That's in addition to coming in for a brief period of time once every 2 weeks. Trying to build in all kinds of mechanisms and supports for both the student and the teacher to make sure there is success in the online program.
Okay. I was just trying to wrap my head around what a day would look like for
Yeah,
online
we
teacher.
we are writing, and I will share with you. We are writing an entire manual with every detail you could possibly imagine. We are not interested in shooting from the hip on this at all. We want success for the teachers and the kiddos. So we're working out every detail, and I would love to have the time to be able to show you the slides, show you a daily schedule, give you a sample of the curriculum, show you the job description for the teacher. We're going to have a compact for the student. You know, as if you choose the online route, what does the school agree to do? What does the parent agree to do? What does the student agree to do in order to be successful? And all those components would be included on that compact. So it's not just going to be a raise your hand, I pick online. It's going to be, we need online, and we're going to meet with you. We're going to go over all the components, the expectations, sign the compact, make sure we support you, and hit all the check boxes for a new learning to occur.
So that's great. Do we have something similar for traditional?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's beneficial all the way around.
Absolutely. We 100% agree. We're doing the exact same process where we're calling the bricks and mortar. So we have the bricks and mortar instruction, and then we'll have the online instruction. We have, you know, we're building the formative plan for both. We're building, you know, how do we keep the teachers safe and supported and new learning in the classroom? How can we support the gap that might arrive with the kids that have been out of school for a minimum of 78 days? So the same energy is going into the live as the online.
So Dr. Dorner, I just wanted, so you, tonight you want us to give you a date that the board feels comfortable with.
Yes.
But you did say we would be having a workshop to discuss the traditional delivery, the online delivery. When do you expect that to be, that workshop?
Well, I'm pushing my team really hard. You can look at them all smiling and nodding. After we had our collaboration day that led to the workshop and the presentation that you're looking at one of the slides for, then most of the directors have been put in charge of a different aspect. We have Vicki Trujillo handling the health and safety component. Obviously, Mr. Pope is doing IT. Shelley and Jerry are doing curriculum. Devin's helping Vicki with safety. Angela's handling HR, because there's going to be a lot of questions about, you know, leave and what happens if people are ill, and making sure that we're fair and equitable at who can and who's willing or able to come to work. So all of that is happening right now, and I've given them a very short timetable. We launched the task teams last week. Their budgets and their strategies are due this week. We're going to put pen to paper at the end of this week and all of next week, and then be ready to go, honestly, with our plan to start making the strategies and the details come to life. So before the end of June, we will be ready. And that includes training, communication, and logistics. Nobody's going home and nobody's sleeping.
So I have a question in determining which day to start. What does start day look like based on the day? Is it we're doing the same exact thing if we start on July 22nd versus August, I don't know.
You just went mute for some reason, Jen. Your mic went off.
There we go.
There you go.
So does all the protocols, everything will be set in place? The only difference is the day to start?
Yes. We have the screening mechanisms that will be in place. We even have worked out the details with the principals today. What does meet the teacher look like? It's not going to be the same as it traditionally has been. What do the staff meetings look like? What are our visitor policies? We're literally writing a policy or procedure book for every detail. And you're right. For the 22nd, the 3rd, or the 17th, it would be the same.
So, and you do think that you've got enough time to get this done by the 22nd?
Yes, we do. And I think the two most difficult components would be the online piece, to make sure we have, and Jerry Wilsey has met with the companies that have the curriculum, and they're ready to go. The training we have built in. I told the principals we already had built in an extra day this year anyway. Last year, new staff had a professional development day. I don't know if they could choose any day during the entire year to fulfill that 1-day professional development commitment. This year we added it as an additional day for teacher work days to come back, and we've already slated there's going to be social emotional training on that day, the trauma informed training, so that we are aware of what may have happened with our kids during this time they've been out of school. How do we re-enter them into the school system? What signs do we look for trauma? So that's part of the day. And then the other part of the day is the training and logistics for our expectations, because it will be district-wide. How do we enter a school, walk down hallways, use the restroom, have our lunches, all those safety measures. And so that training day is built in, and we're working on that at the same time as everything else. So that's one piece. The second piece is the safety. Can we have the sanitizers, the disinfectants, the thermometers, the screens? We have to have some plexiglass in place. And while the 1.6 million has not been available yet, it will be in short order. Aaron found money for Vicky's safety team to go ahead and pre-order a lot of things. So disinfectants. We even researched, what is a disinfectant? How long does it have to sit on a desk or a table for it to work? And so, when you have secondaries where they're transitioning classes, we found a higher grade disinfectant where you can spray it and it can work in, is it Vicky nod, 3 to 5 seconds? It's quicker. So we're paying attention to all those details, and that has already been ordered, and we should have it before school starts. Now, we also don't have a crystal ball, obviously, where Vicky checks every day. And Vicky, if you want to unmute and share what you learned today about numbers, clearly that's one of our most important pieces to pay attention to. Where are we with the line, the numbers of COVID cases? What's the landscape of what's happening in our health department?
With our COVID cases, we've noticed a couple days that Mojave County may have had a spike, but Kingman is remaining pretty much the same. We have like 2 cases, 3 cases, 1 cases. Kingman as a whole, we're not showing that big spike anymore. We have a downward trend data line.
And what's your data source, Vicki?
The Mojave County Health Department's website.
So the director gave.
What I have done is I've created a graph.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I've created a graph based upon the data that the health department, Mojave County, posts every day, and where it has county cases and Kingman cases. So we can identify and distinguish between the two. The county doesn't keep that record every day, so I have to pull each press release and put them on the graph. And Kingman numbers are looking really good.
So those, at the last Board of Supervisors meeting, the director was asked why Bullhead is seeing a surge, why others are not. And basically it has to do with the testing protocols. Warm C got a bunch of tests, and she said that anyone comes in and they're showing symptoms, they will be tested. That's why in Bullhead you're seeing a lot of 0 to 18, 18 to 29, versus Kingman has chosen to not test even with symptoms unless they're going to be hospitalized. So that's why Kingman's numbers are very few, but they are 70 to 80 range, and they're hospitalized because they've chose not to test even with symptoms. They've just told people, if you have symptoms, go home, and if you require hospitalization, come back. But that is your difference in results and testing numbers. I believe that video, the Board of Supervisors video, is available. I saw it on a group. I'm not sure which group.
Right. And then Bullhead also has had a nursing home that has taken a heavy hit for COVID cases, which is also part of the reason for their increase. So the graph shows since May 31st, the highest one day we had 3 cases. We've had 1 case diagnosed today, 0. So that's what the information that's being provided by the county shows.
Dr. Lucero?
Dr. Dorner, you said it great when you said we don't have a crystal ball, and that's what makes this decision so difficult. But we have so much out of our control, but one thing we can control is having sanitizers available in the buildings, teaching staff and students proper hygiene techniques, make sure we're using those. I know we can't put desks 6 feet apart, and the lunchrooms are going to be fairly crowded and things like that. But one thing we can control is time. And I guess I'm not understanding, if we start on July 22nd, how that's a benefit of waiting longer if our cases in Kingman are at the same line or they're decreasing. I guess I just look at it that if cases are decreasing starting today to July 22nd, and they're decreasing even further from July 22nd to August 17th, then it's a benefit to wait, because there's less chance for transmission, for taking it home, and so forth. But like you said, we can't predict where that's going to be. But I think if that was the trend, that it would be beneficial to start at a later date. I know it's almost impossible to start in September, but I think starting a little bit later than July 22nd would not hurt us. It may not help us, but it could possibly help us.
And I have a different opinion on that, in that the sooner we're ready to start and we plan to start, the better prepared we are if we have another shutdown. And if we can get some traditional time in before there might be another shutdown, we're ahead also. So that's where I would like to see the July 22nd. So if it's okay, I'd like to make that motion, and then we can discuss if I get a second.
Are you asking for a second? Is that a motion, Beth?
I'm asking, do we need to discuss more before I make a motion?
No.
Or okay.
No, we can make the motion and have discussion. So
okay, so I'm making the motion that we start July 22nd.
Okay, so we have a motion to start school on July 22nd.
I'll second.
And Mrs. Young will second that. So now we'll have discussion on the motion. Any discussion in favor of the motion, against the motion, questions for the staff?
I see both of your points. I would propose somewhere in the middle. I think that we've had to make so many changes and try to think through everything, that there's always going to be something we haven't thought about. Plus, because we start so early, we're going to be the first to make the mistakes, or we're going to be the trendsetters. Versus waiting a little bit longer where some of the other Arizona schools start. We can learn from their mistakes and collaborate in some way. My idea, my thoughts on that, as far as cases going up and down, I don't think we're ever going to get rid of this. So it's just a matter of how can we change the environment to be as safe as possible. And I don't think that rushing is going to help. Give us a week, give us an extra week. That would be helpful, I think. A week's not going to be too detrimental to our students, but it might be huge in procurement of some of these things that we've been waiting for, because we're all going to be looking for these things. All school districts are going to be looking for these things. So the fact that they are not in our hands right now makes me want to think, let's wait a week, make sure that we have everything ready and everything is solid before that. So I would like to see one of the August start dates, just for precautionary. And then at that workshop, are we going to talk about masks, mandatory, not mandatory? Is that a conversation to have at the workshop? Or is that something that we're going to have to get as a district? If we're going to do it mandatory, is that something we have to purchase for everyone? Or how are we going to think about that?
Dr. Dorner, do you want to address that
I'm not
question?
sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a board discussion or if it's a me, if I'm a person that jumps in. Yeah, those are all the pieces that are going into our return to learn or reopening school manual. We have a safety section, which talks about personal protective equipment, cleaning routines, what the COVID custodian does, the expectation for the teachers in the classroom. And we will bring that whole manual to the board and during the workshop, and then have you look it over, and then I guess approve, all of it or parts of it, or approve it as an almost entire document, or if you don't agree with pieces of it, set it to the side and ask us to amend it. But I think, Jen, today would just be the date, and then the workshop would be approving the details.
Okay.
Such as masks and things like that.
So as far as this motion goes, I would not be in favor of a July 22nd start.
Okay.
I have a question for Dr. Dorner. It's my understanding that we have committees looking at all of the risks and the precautions and coming up with
Am I on mute again?
I was waiting for her to unfreeze. Usually if you freeze, you come out there. You may have to repeat that, Mrs. Young.
Okay. You have committees that's been looking at all of the risks and the precautions involved and coming up with solutions in order to open the schools on the 22nd. Do you feel, and do the teachers feel from your surveys, that the 22nd is the date that we should start?
We don't have 100% agreement on anything. Other
Okay.
than the admin meeting this morning was 100% agreement on the 22nd.
Okay.
If we look at the surveys that were given, I think it's 3 weeks or a month ago now, it's about the high 60s, 67, 70% said July 22nd. So if it were a voting world, the majority would like to see the 22nd. We didn't look at it from a voting vantage point, because
Okay.
we want to really look at the safety, the precautions. Can we do it? Can we be open? Our goal is, our vision is to have our kids in classes and learning as quick as possible to reduce that gap, and to meet that vision, or to have that vision come to life. What do we have to do to make sure it's done in a safe manner? So that's been our approach, and we feel like it's a heavy burden. I mean, it's a heavy burden.
Do you feel confident in opening it the 22nd?
Do I feel confident in our team, in our plan, and
Yes.
our process? Yes.
Okay.
I will say
comfortable with that.
there's of course is a piece, I think, to Jen Shumway's point. Things have been ordered, the money's been spent, we're expecting it to come in. What happens if it doesn't? So, I think this has to be a live, fluid, iterative process regardless, right? If we were to vote, if you were to vote as a board tonight and say July 22nd, I think we have to say July 22nd unless, and then
Right.
you know what I mean? If X, Y, and Z is in place, we're good with the 22nd. But if we have a spike in numbers on July 1st, if the products don't come in, then we have to be willing to pause and wait. My expectation and my confidence is that we can do it. Am I willing to put anybody's health at risk? No, I'm not. So that iterative piece means taking a look at it all along, planning for, preparing for, and wanting to come back on the 22nd and being ready, but also being willing to reevaluate as we draw nearer to that date. And I think we would have to be clear with the teachers and the community on that point as well. It's not July 22nd or bust. It's
right.
Can we open on July 22nd confidently, get our kids back in school and start learning? And what would keep us from doing that?
Thank you.
Obviously, if we start on, let's say we started August 3rd or August 17th, do the teachers report back just a few days before that? They're not going to come back on the 22nd or before that, correct?
It would be like a sliding scale, if you will. How many ever days delayed it would be, that's how many days delayed people would start. For certified, we could, I think Aaron talked about this at the workshop. I'm going to look back at my slide. On August 3rd, payroll could be normal. It would be delayed for classified because they wouldn't be working. And our October break would be decreased. If it was the 17th, we might still be able to do normal payroll for teachers. Classified would definitely be delayed and there would be no October break.
What is the start date for, let's say, Bullhead? Or the normal start date? Let me ask that. Does anyone know?
I don't know.
We had someone in our academic services, and I don't know if Jerry Woolsey, if you have that data in front of you, but we did call 8 or 10 districts to see when are you starting, are you having a delayed start? And we can send that. I wish I had that in front of me. I apologize.
I'm sorry. I'm looking for it in my share sheets.
But they were all starting their normal date. I think one of them was late July, their normal typical start time, and the others were in early August.
Correct. It was July 29th. Colorado River is opening.
But the rest of them are
July 29th or August 3rd. It looks like the majority of them. August 3rd, August 4th, July 29th.
And that's their typical
That's
start
their
date.
normal time. Correct.
So if we're all going to be using the same data, waiting for guidance from Department of Ed, from the governor, if we do see numbers spike, we're all going to be kind of working through at the same schedule if we go August 3rd versus us full speed ahead July 22nd. So I would feel more comfortable with the August 3rd start.
I would like to throw my 2 cents in, and I'll go along with Jen as far as I think August the 3rd is a good date.
Thank you, Mr. Ricca. Well, we do have a motion on the table, so is there any further discussion, or we can take a vote on this motion? So
You need to repeat the motion again. I don't remember it.
The motion is to start school on July 22nd. So we'll do if there's no further discussion, we'll do a roll call vote. If this motion fails, then we can make another motion with a different date. So I'll just go on the screen left to right. So Ms. Shumway, are you in favor or against the motion?
Against.
And myself, I am against. Mr. Ricca?
Against.
Against. Mrs. Young?
For.
For. Mrs. Weiser?
Or
4. So the motion fails 3-2. Do we have a new motion or a different motion?
I'll make the motion that we start August 3rd, pending all of those safety protocols.
So we have a motion to begin school on August 3rd. Do we have a second?
Yes, I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion on August 3rd? How about from the staff? Dr. Dorner, any discussion or questions for the board?
We'll be ready. We'll be ready to go the 3rd as much as the 22nd. So no, we nothing to add.
Okay. So no further discussion. So we will do a roll call vote for this motion, which is to start school on August 3rd. We had a second, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Ms. Shumway, are you for or against the motion?
For.
For. I am against the motion. Mr. Ricca?
For.
For. Mrs. Young?
Against.
Against. Mrs. Weiser?
Or if we can't do July 22nd, August 3rd is the next option.
Okay, that's a great vote. Okay, so we have 3 board members in favor of the motion and 2 against. So the motion passes to start school on August 3rd. And then with that, Mrs. Dorner, you'll get us just maybe a rough date of that workshop.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, I will have Board Secretary Litzinger contact you. And I think it would be prudent to say we need at least 2 to 4 hours. If we were going to go, if you are interested in having the entire manual and seeing all the details, which I would hope you would be.
Right.
I'm excited to share with you what we're doing.
I
Are
think
you
that's
going to
great,
send that ahead of time so we can have time
Yes.
to review it? Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
maybe like a 10 to 2 meeting with lunch or something like that.
And again, it would be a proposal, and we would hope to have really great discussions with our board. We really value what you do and the work that you would be willing to do with us on this.
Well, and we know that everyone there has been working 24/7. So, okay, we are on item 17, which is to approve the listed donations.
I'll make that motion.
So we have a motion to approve, second
I'll second.
by Mrs. Young. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And now I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I moved.
We have a motion,
I'll second.
Second.
and a second. All in
Bruce says it.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
So thank you, everyone. I think we've come a long way over these past 3 months with these meetings. We're doing well.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. And these are difficult times, so I appreciate the collaboration.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
evening.
you.
Bye.
Bye.